How's everyone feeling? Has everyone had their cup of coffee yet? Actually, show of hands, who here has had coffee today? Okay, cool, so we have a very caffeinated room. That's good. And I'm not surprised because coffee is one of the most consumed beverages in the world. It's actually the most consumed beverage, only second to water. And I think it's because coffee has become part of our lives. It's how we wake up, how we start our mornings, how we work, how we study, how we connect with family and friends. And for some of us, it has become part of our morning routines, part of our daily rituals. In fact, I do start my mornings with a cup of coffee every day. And I do feel a special connection with coffee. I've worked in the coffee industry for years now, but coffee has always felt deeply personal to me. My grandfather used to grow coffee back in my home country in Ecuador, so we always took coffee very seriously in my household. And I think growing up, I had an understanding that coffee was more than a beverage. It was connected to land, to family stories. And I think this is why I became so interested in understanding what's behind my cup of coffee. But the thing is that the more I learned about coffee, the more I realized something. Although coffee feels permanent as something that we can have every day, it is actually at risk. Did you know that by 2050, nearly half of the land that is currently suitable for coffee growing could become unsuitable due to climate change? And we are already seeing this. We're seeing rising temperatures, we're seeing changing rainfall patterns, we're seeing soil degradation across coffee growing regions. And this is part of what we in the industry call the coffee crisis. But climate is just one part of the story. Because for coffee to reach your kitchen or your local coffee shop, multiple things need to work together. Yes, we do need climate and biodiversity systems, but we also need transportation networks. We need energy systems. We need trade policies, labor, politics, all working together across continents. And because everything is so interconnected, one small disruption could create a ripple effect across the whole supply chain. So for example, let's say that there's a drought, there's a shipping disruption, there's a spike in fuel prices, political conflict. And suddenly, coffee changes too. Prices increase, certain coffees become harder to source, and communities whose livelihoods depend on coffee face even higher risks. And I think this is why I became so interested in understanding this. And it feels very urgent, right? We all remain vulnerable to all these ripple effects, and that can create quite a lot of uncertainty. Uncertainty about what the future holds, uncertainty about the viability of the systems, uncertainty of not knowing if the systems that we have today will remain tomorrow. And it is scary to think of a future without coffee, isn't it? And it can be very overwhelming to think that what is at risk if we lose this. But what if I told you that one way that we can start approaching this is through curiosity? Because curiosity can help us connect better with this product, and maybe we can start seeing coffee as more than just a beverage. And I think this matters, because we cannot deeply care about something that we cannot truly see. For me, curiosity led me back home, back to Ecuador, back to where my connection with coffee first began. And I started my journey by asking myself one question. How can we start exploring a sustainable future in coffee? And I knew that for me to answer that question, I needed to learn from the communities and people who live closest to these changes. And I was very fortunate to work closely with a coffee community called La Papaya, which is located in Saraguro, Loja, in the southern part of Ecuador. And this region is filled with beautiful landscapes, as you can see, extraordinary coffee, and even more extraordinary people. And I saw with even more clarity the amount of patience and long-term thinking that coffee requires, because growing coffee is a slow work. And we all experience coffee in different ways, right? We experience coffee in moments. We experience coffee as consumers. We experience coffee. It may take us a few minutes to drink a cup of coffee, right? But coffee producers experience coffee for much longer. It may take up to 2 years or even more for coffee to go from a plant seed to a beverage that we can all enjoy. And through all of that time, coffee growers are constantly adapting to changing weather patterns and uncertain market dynamics. And I saw with even more clarity the amount of creativity and expertise that coffee growing actually requires, because coffee growers are constantly experimenting with new coffee plant varieties and also processing methods, like the fermentation of coffee beans, that can give you new flavor profiles in your cup. So coffee really is more than just a beverage. It's communities, it's passion, it's environments. And I do wonder if this is getting the recognition that it deserves. Because what I have found out is that if we want to explore sustainability in coffee, we need to start expanding what we value within coffee culture itself. And we also need to start celebrating innovation, because we see incredible innovation already happening in the coffee industry, but not just innovation in brewing technologies or in the consumption side of things, but innovation at origin. Because innovation can look like this, right? Innovation can be regenerative agricultural practices that care for biodiversity protection and also climate change resilience. Innovation is creating stronger feedback loops across supply chain actors. Innovation is creating community and caring for that community through coffee. And innovation is redesigning the relationships that we already have so that relationship and value and responsibility are fairly shared across the system. And these are exactly the kind of efforts that we need to create more visibility for. And we need to start to creating more pathways for this innovation to happen. Because if we want more sustainable futures, we need to expand what we value, and we need to start seeing coffee not just as a product that moves through the world, but also it should also carry the stories, the knowledge, the labor behind it, and the passion behind it. And if we want to create this, we may use Foresight as an incredible tool for this, because Foresight allows us to move on from the crisis mode for a second, and we can start asking bigger questions, not only how do we solve this next problem, but what kind of future do we want to build? What kind of coffee culture do we want to leave behind? And what do we really need to value in this system? And I think here there's an opportunity to start learning more about this system through curiosity. So do hold on to curiosity, because you don't know where it may lead you, who you could meet, what kind of experiences you could have. And this can start simple. Next time that you have a cup of coffee, do think about how delicious it is, but also think about the systems of care behind it. You can ask yourself, who made this possible? What kind of knowledge, environments, and relationships made this experience possible for me? Because coffee is a system that needs to be truly recognized and listened. And maybe the future of that system depends on all of us asking the right questions. Thank you.